We're back at the woods. I've got the metalwork from Gid's workshop, the centres, which the wood will be mounted between. I've got to drill the holes in the right place to mount them in the headstock and tailstock. Let's do that. Drill a hole, pop it in. I've drilled my hole down to the depth needed. I want to file a little bit of a leading edge on the corner of this steel. What I don't want to do is scrape a load of timber down the hole as I whack this in, which will then, there'll be material at the bottom of the hole stopping me getting it in as far as it needs to be. Because ultimately I could drill the hole deeper than necessary, but I'd rather it just be the right depth. The front edge has been, the leading edge has been knocked off this already. I'm going to put a lump of wood on there to hit this so I don't damage the tip. I guess I should probably use a bit of oak. It doesn't really matter as long as I've got something hard. The moment of truth is putting them in the lathe bed and see if they meet. Not bad at all. I'm now going to cut the mortises under here for the wedges to go in. To mark the position of them, I'll just mark across off the bed on both sides. Which will give me the position. Oh, one of those. Which will give. Oh, it doesn't matter. Which will give me the position that the hole needs to be for the wedges. I'm actually going to come up a little bit on both of them, just to give the wedge a little bit of space to go. Now, to make the wedges, I'm going to use the bits of wood that came out of here. I don't see the point in cutting a new bit of wood just to make a couple of wedges. So I've got those pieces here. This is what came off the side. Oh, that one actually came from there, which is quite sweet. So I'll make the wedges out of these. As I was cutting this, the wood was closing up on the saw, which was kind of gripping it, making it hard work. So I've popped a wedge in the end of the saw cut to open it up a bit so the blade will move in the cut again. So it was getting very hard. So I've got to cut the mortises in the headstock now, headstock and tailstock. Because this is a wedge, the mortise is wider where it goes in than where it comes out. I've taken the measurement, the depth of it, each side of the mortise, and transferred that onto here. So I just need to remember the top of the mortise is cut square, the bottom of the mortise has got a bit of a splay on it, like the wedge. Clean it out with the chisel. I've gone a little bit over my line there, but I don't think it matters. Okay, that should do all right there. I'll use one that's not too heavy. Lovely. There's no movement on that at all. So the wedge underneath. Right, the wedge is fitting quite nicely now. I'm going to try this this bowl of blank that I started on the other lathe earlier today. Just pop it in there. Happy days. She's a spinner. So I've got a piece of ash that's about 4.5, 5 inch diameter. I think 6 might be ideal. This might be a bit thin, but I'll give it a go and see how it feels. Right. Splitting quite nicely down here. This knot might give me some difficulty, but we'll find out. That's not bad. Cut those with the axe, I think. So we've split it in half. Need to split it into quarters now. Nice. Pleased with that. Four equal quarters, and I think because there's almost triangulation within that will make it quite strong as well, quite rigid. So now I need to use the axe. I'll mark the end of the leg with a circle, which is the diameter of the big handheld auger that I have. I think it's 1.5 inches diameter. I'll mark there, and then use the axe to basically taper it slightly and make it round so it fits in the holes that I put in the lathe bed, and that'll be our legs. So I'm just down to the line there, take the opposite corners off, and I'll make it a square, then an octagon. I'm going to use the auger bit. I'm going to go, I think I'll divide this into about 3. I'm going to look at something like that. I'll have a hole here for pole, which my bungee will be attached to. That's the drive. And 2 holes here. Actually, I might go a little bit further back. Let's go a bit further back than a third. I wonder if I should give you measurements now. Let's come in equal side. We want our legs to splay. That splay I'll do with the auger bit. Well, we've come up here for a couple of hazel branches, a couple of hazel poles. I've got this area needs coppicing, but there's quite a lot down there. I'll have a quick look through it and see what's about the right diameter for what we need. So tall and straight, I might get both poles out. This one might be a little bit bigger than larger diameter than the other, but I'm not too concerned. So we'll have this one. Alright. Oh, these are sycamore. Okay. I might even leave the ivy on there actually. Quite nice. The length. I'm going to go for about that long, I think. Twice. What is that? So from the fingertip to my elbow. Elbow to fingertip. Right there. So I've got two the same length. I'll use the axe to taper these down to the size auger bit that I've got, and then they can go into the lathe bed. Put a bungee between them and that'll be the drive. So again, using the bit of pipe that I've got, the internal diameter is the same as my big auger bit, just to give me a guide. I'll draw around inside there. Be careful I don't go too small on this. I think these poles are a little bit over length at the moment, so if I need to redress it, I can. I'm going to mark where I'm going to cut the holes for the poles to go in, which will have the bungee on. I'm kind of going to go about halfway between the leg and the end of the a reasonable distance. There's a bit of meat left there. There's a bit of timber between there and there, so hopefully it won't split like it has done before. Now that looks like there's a bit of a roll plug in there or something. I'm not going to use the bit of wood because it's had a previous life, so we'll just go as close as we can to it, about there I think. So yeah, I'll get on that with the auger now. We're going to have a little bit of an angle on these poles so they splay out a little bit, which means I can get a longer bit of bungee cord on there. Not quite sure if it's necessary, just seems to be the way that we roll with these things. So I've drilled right through there, not quite through actually, rather than spall this side blowing out and spalling out. I'll use a gouge which has been ground on the inside. I suppose it doesn't really matter too much, just use a chisel to knock out what's left on the bottom of that hole. I'd rather cut it out than it's split out. So these are tapered on the end, just like the legs, going a hole pre-drilled one each end. The bungee will be stretched between the two of them. But I want at the top, I'd like to have a piece of dowel or a peg going through, just so the bungee doesn't slide down these supports as tension as it's being used. I don't want the bungee to slide down. So we're going to drill a hole through each of these at the top and make a peg to go through for the bungee to be fastened to. Quite easy. Do nicely. I'll grab a bungee, pop that across there. Put one just here. That's quite a large bungee, that one. I think it's 10mm. You might, I mean, if you go with a 6 or an 8mm, you might go back and forth, back again, so you've got 4 pieces going across. But I feel like that feels about right to me. I guess it'll be a little bit of trial and error there, but that looks good so far.